Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take your sources, articles, research, our own notes, and really boil them down to get you informed fast. Today, we're diving into something that, well, it often flies under the radar, but it's incredibly important. The mental, the emotional well-being of pilots and all those unseen pressures they're dealing with.
Yeah, and what really kicked this off for us were some recent headlines, specifically that Air India 171 situation. It just raised so many questions, about what really goes on up there in the cockpit beyond just flying the plane, and what kind of support do pilots actually have when things get tough. The stakes are just unbelievably high.
That's exactly right. So our mission today really is to unpack the actual stressors pilots face day to day. We'll look at how the aviation industry is addressing mental health, or maybe where it's falling short, and importantly, what can we all learn from this about supporting people in any kind of high-stakes job. We've got insights from a really experienced captain who's also a counselor, share some powerful stuff. Okay, so let's kick this off then. When you think about flying today, I mean, there's so much automation, right? So what are the biggest stressors for pilots now? Are they different? What are those hidden pressures we don't see?
Well, it's interesting, that automation point. It's almost a paradox. It hasn't just made flying simpler. It's actually profoundly changed the stress. Sure, maybe less physical fatigue in some ways, but it's brought in new pressures, big ones.
Like what kind of pressures?
Well, there's this huge cognitive load now. You're managing incredibly complex systems, constantly processing information, and you're always facing these check rides, these tests, just to stay current. It's relentless. So yeah, the paradox is less hands-on flying can actually mean more mental strain. And layered on top of that is just this immense psychological weight, the responsibility, hundreds of lives in the back, flying for hours, maybe over an ocean. That trust, that's a burden you constantly carry.
And, something I found fascinating, which I wouldn't have guessed, was the whole interpersonal dynamic. You mentioned crews sometimes meet for the first time that day, flying together.
Yeah, it definitely happens.
That must add this whole other layer of stress, right? Getting to know someone, trusting them immediately, coordinating under pressure.
It absolutely does. That's a factor for sure. But, what often comes up is the biggest stressor, the one passengers really don't see. It's home life. Family relationships.
Really, more than the flying itself.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
Think about it. Maybe you're dealing with a difficult situation at home, say a child who's really struggling, maybe rebelling. Our source put it so powerfully, there's no relief from it. It's incredibly hard to just switch that off, to compartmentalize when you step into the cockpit. It can, make us dark inside or make our hearts hurt. And that can lead to this really insidious thing, especially near the end of a trip. Pilots call it get-home-itis. It's this internal push, maybe subconscious even, to cut corners, just slightly, just to get back home faster. Training actually covers this now, how to spot that feeling in yourself and fight it.
That's intense. It makes you think then. Okay, what if a pilot does notice something? Their partner seems off, maybe distracted. Is there pressure to just push through, keep to the schedule? Or can they actually speak up?
That's a critical question, and it gets into the whole chain of command and responsibility. If you're the captain, the buck stops with you. If your co-pilot seems distant, maybe acting a bit off, you're trained to dig. You ask, hey, is everything okay? You seem a bit quiet today, something on your mind.
You have to probe a bit.
Exactly. You dig a little deeper, and if they still seem, dark or angry, something's not right. Yeah, the captain has to make the call. Maybe you don't fly. But importantly, the first officer isn't powerless either. They can call the chief pilot anytime, 24/7. They can say, look, I'm not comfortable flying with this person today. I want off this flight. I'll take the heat.
And the airline supports that.
Most major airlines will back them up, yeah. I mean, you need a solid reason. You need your ducks in a row, as they say.
Yeah.
But the mechanism is there. It's a huge responsibility on both sides.
That's good to hear, that individual accountability. But thinking bigger picture, what about the airlines themselves, the industry? What are they doing systemically to support pilots' mental health?
Well, there's been a significant shift, actually, particularly with the major U.S. carriers, the 4 largest specifically. They have these no jeopardy programs now.
No jeopardy.
Meaning pilots can actually seek help for emotional or mental health issues without automatically risking their career or facing official punishment. It's confidential. And one source mentioned that one airline's mental health hotline gets about 4 or 5 calls a day, which is seen as a really positive sign. It means pilots are reaching out.
4 or 5 calls a day. Okay, that does sound like progress. But what about the ones who aren't calling? Is there still this underlying stigma, you think, that keeps people quiet even with these programs? How do you actually build an environment where it feels safe to say, hey, I'm not okay today? That seems incredibly hard.
You're right. That's the core challenge. It really boils down to culture. And a lot of that is about personal demeanor, how you interact with your crewmates. Are you humble, approachable, transparent, or are you sarcastic, always needing the last word, making jokes about everything? That shuts people down.
So it's about being someone people can talk to.
Exactly. It can be as simple as genuinely asking, how are you doing today? Or everything okay at home?
Yeah.
And if you get that quick, fine, maybe you probe just a little, you sure? You ready to fly today? It's about building that rapport, that trust, making that fitness for duty evaluation more than just a checkbox. It opens the door.
But even with better culture, better programs, there's still that massive fear, isn't there? The fear of losing your license. The source mentioned that private pilot told someone he was seeing a psychiatrist and bam, license revoked. And the lament was that story gets repeated way too many times. That's going to be a huge barrier.
It absolutely is. It's probably the single biggest hurdle still. And it points to where the industry, especially regulators, need to evolve.
Oh.
Interestingly, though, the experts we looked at have a nuanced view on things like mandatory psychological evaluations. Well, the concern is pilots might just learn how to game the system, learn the right answers to give on a formal test. So the preference seems to lean more towards strengthening those informal peer-based checks, the courageous questioning we talked about, making that the norm, rather than relying solely on a formal test that might just push problems further underground.
So less formal testing, more genuine checking in.
Kind of. And there are tools for that. For example, in training, they use this green, yellow, red system, like a traffic light.
Okay.
It's a simple way to signal your mental state or workload. I'm in the yellow might mean I'm busy but okay. I'm in the red means, hang on, I need to stop and catch up, or I'm feeling overwhelmed. Pilots are trained to use this language. So before takeoff, you might hear, okay, we both in the green.
A quick coded check-in.
Exactly. And sometimes they'll even follow up, half jokingly but seriously, are you lying to me? Just to encourage that extra bit of honesty. It's another layer of informal assessment.
That's actually pretty clever. So thinking about catalysts for change, what about major incidents? Like, did Germanwings really force the industry to step up its game on mental health?
Oh, absolutely. Events like Germanwings were a huge wake-up call. They starkly showed the potential consequences if mental health isn't addressed.
Yeah.
After that, you definitely saw airlines ramp up programs. Like some started doing specific mental health training sessions every 9 months. One airline apparently distributed, get this, 25,000 magnets over the years.
Magnets.
Yeah, magnets with helpline numbers and resources, just constant reminders. And to programs like Project Wingman at American Airlines that get cited as a gold standard for peer support. So yes, incidents drove change. But the feeling is there's still further to go, especially systemically.
And that systemic change points where?
Largely towards the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. The argument is the FAA really needs to up their game, modernize its approach, and actively work to kill that stigma around mental health reporting.
It's not just about airline programs then, it's the regulator.
Exactly. And it's also about practical support. There's a strong call for Congress to step in with meaningful financial support. So if a pilot does need to take time off for mental health, they don't face financial ruin. Imagine getting, say, a paycheck for the next 6 months while you get help.
That would remove a massive barrier.
A huge one. The core message is mental health is health. It's just as vital as physical health for a pilot, and the entire system needs to reflect that reality from top to bottom.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really pulls back the curtain, doesn't it? On the here weight pilots carry, stuff we just don't see. And it highlights how crucial mental well-being is, right alongside physical fitness. We're seeing a shift, maybe slow but necessary, towards more support, more open conversations. It's a real culture change underway.
It is. And maybe the final thought to leave people with is this. If this level of pressure, this need for peer support, for systems that don't punish vulnerability, if it's so critical in aviation, what does that tell us about other high-pressure jobs? Or even just our everyday lives? How can we all foster that culture of compassion, of being able to talk openly about mental well-being wherever we are? And that's maybe the bigger question for all of us, isn't it?